tuning in to the online broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing aftershows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
I'm a survivor, I'm not gonna give up.
Hey guys, welcome into another I Am Cait after show right here on AFTERBUZZ TV and AFTERBUZZTV.com. We are streaming live for the season finale, a new beginning here on I Am Cait on the AFTERBUZZ TV network. Remember, hit subscribe on YouTube and iTunes if you're listening to the podcast or watching the video. If you're live streaming, you can tweet us. We'll give out our Twitter handles in just a second. We can talk with you if you have any questions for that. I'm Bobby, that's Tiona next to me, across the table, Danica and Shar.
What's up?
Hey everybody.
How are you guys doing, ladies? How was Labor Day? Did anybody do anything fun? You two were here.
We were here. Gossiping all about Caitlyn.
All about Cait.
I was watching baseball.
Well, you guys were
Really?
partying.
Congrats.
That's
Baseball is I wouldn't say the most boring sport to me. Sorry.
Get out.
Golf is.
I'd
out.
much rather be here talking about Caitlyn, just saying.
Yeah.
We were having a fun
Baseball
Labor Day.
snacks are good.
Well, Tiona and I are going to do the show today. It's nice seeing you two. Thank you for coming out. We'll catch you guys next season.
Oh, we're just starting. You wait
Right,
for
right.
this episode.
Okay, let's just start, but let's not start with the episode because, so here's the thing. Usually we don't do this, but I'm going to tell the story because I thought it was so funny. I walk into the studio today. We've got our ideas, what we want to do, and Shar says to me, she says, Bobby, at what point on the show are we going to talk about Caitlyn on Ellen? And she had fire coming out of her eyes. And I said, you know what? I know this look. And I'm like, you know what? We're going to talk about it whenever you want. So we're going to talk about it right now. We'll get into the episode. We got a lot to talk about there, but let's start with the Ellen thing. And Shar, you have the floor.
Well, like Danica and I said last week, we touched on this because, you know, Ellen, we had seen the teaser where Caitlyn said that she was, if marriage is the word that you all want, then have it type thing. But what I thought was interesting was Caitlyn did receive backlash, but I'd never seen Ellen speak out on anyone. So in case you all were under a bridge, Ellen went to Howard Stern's XM satellite radio show, and she had some choice words for Caitlyn, basically saying, in short, she still has a judgment about gay marriage. And, you know, it's just like that type thing because Caitlyn was throwing it out as far as I'm a traditionalist, this is what I believe, but if you all, like I said, if you all want that word marriage, if it means that much to you, then you should have it. Caitlyn also said that it's not her job to stand in the way of people's happiness, but it kind of pissed me off because I don't see how, like I was telling Danica last week, I don't see how you as being a part of an oppressed group of people can do the oppressing. And I mean, if you really look at it, Caitlyn, if you felt female your entire life, wouldn't all of your marriages have been gay marriages while you're sitting up here on Ellen talking about you're a traditionalist? You know what I'm saying? If you really felt female but since you were 4, like you told Diane Sawyer, then all of your marriages would have been, because you didn't view yourself as male or you didn't have the language as to what to call it, all of your marriages have been same sex, if you really want to break it down to that.
Isn't that
But
the
it's supposed
Caitlyn?
to be the difference.
Well, but that's the conundrum to me, that Caitlyn has never, at least on this show, has never felt a part of the oppressed group.
No.
The oppressed group is them.
Yeah.
You know, transgender people, we're learning about them. I'm learning about their community. It's
like
never
she's
been
on a
me.
field trip or something.
Exactly.
Literally.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Exactly. And so she's never felt by that group, you know, air quotes. And so she can't say, well, you know, I'm oppressed or whatever, because it never has crossed her mind. And she's so sheltered, there's that too.
Yeah.
She is.
But go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, and I don't know if anyone's ever tried to change like their grandma's mind on something. You know, people are rooted in their ways, and I think that it's just going to take a little longer for Caitlyn to fully come over and see that she is connected to this oppressed group and to really understand it. Not that it's okay for this to be happening, but it's just like some people are so stubborn, and especially, you know, a lot of conservative people are very conservative, and that is, there's right and there's wrong. There's no like middle ground
Until it concerns them.
Yeah, exactly. So I think Caitlyn's just having to still deal with that struggle of the balance of both. And I think we kind of saw that a little bit in tonight's episode when she was talking to Allison about, you know, how to keep your faith and be trans and how you can be okay with yourself and do that. And I think it's something that she just still needs to work towards.
It's like a big tug of war, but I still... And I'm someone who is very, very objective in my way of thinking. I'm always interested as to putting my feet in the other person's shoes. I just don't see how you could be that wrapped in your ideas that you essentially make these decisions politically and otherwise, you know, essentially like against yourself. Yeah. I don't see how you could be that rooted. I don't know. I just can't I can't understand it. I can't begin to unpack it. So I don't get it.
That part either. Like, I get the transition. I get being gay. I understand all that. But to be so conservative when you're a transgender, it's really interesting to me. But I also think, like, her whole statement on Ellen, that really showed her age in a way. It's a different generation, and like a lot of older people, like our grandparents' age,
But she used the wrong words to me to say that you're a traditionalist. But you're a tramp. Like, okay.
It's an oxymoron. It doesn't make sense.
By any stretch of the imagination, in any definition, former Vice President Dick Cheney is a traditionalist. He is to the left, far to the left, of Caitlyn Jenner on same-sex marriage. That's one example, and it's because of what you were just talking about, your personal experience of his daughter and what he went through with his daughter. But that's the thing. It's the personal example. And when you see the personal example, suddenly your outlook on whatever it is changes. Because you're living
and it's like,
through it.
how do you fight that? How do you fight that being so conservative, so to speak, and then you reveal to the world that you're a trans woman? How do you combat? I would suggest that it would take, you know, Caitlyn to go through something traumatizing for her to realize that she's a part of this community. But I feel like her Twitter mentions have been in shambles ever since she joined Twitter. It figures that I mean, it's clear that she has probably an assistant handle that. She's not reading the problematic, the insulting, the hurtful tweets that are making her, you know, that would make her realize, like, you're a part of this community. Your cisgender white male privilege is now gone.
Yeah.
Do you think
it's gone?
But do you think it also could be that she's so jaded to those feelings and she's so used to having negative comments come her way? She's been a public figure the majority of her life, and being on the Kardashians and all that, you know, it's just when you're used to that, and then those people know not to go read their Twitter mentions. They they'll get a gist of like, oh yeah, you know, there's a lot of negative things being said out there, but they don't know the nastiest of the nasty stuff
and
that's being said.
And she probably is protected in a bubble. She's in
paying
a bubble.
attention to it.
But that whole Ellen thing just rubbed me the wrong way.
But I gotta say about the Ellen thing, I love Ellen as a host so much more. The way she stood her ground and like just kind of was like, you really think that? She kind of like not fought back, but I thought she, like, the way she handled it as a host and like kept the conversation going, it made me like
because Caitlyn was so
more.
dismissive. But that was something to be noted. I have never heard of Ellen DeGeneres. You know, Ellen's always the fun dancing lady. Dory from Finding Nemo. Like, Ellen is fun. So to see her publicly, you know, speak against someone's comments that was against her, I'm like, wow. This must have really struck a chord with her.
For a very high focus point, for a very famous LGBT person to lose Ellen on this issue is really significant.
Yes, that's something that should be noted.
Yeah,
it should be noted.
And I'm not saying Ellen dislikes her now or is against Caitlyn, but just to lose her, the Howard Stern thing's really telling. It's really telling.
Yeah.
And look, Caitlyn has tried to her entire time, and this is fine, you're allowed to do this for sure, but we talk about the bubble a lot. The bubble extends to the media, the earned and paid media that she has gotten. And the Vanity Fair thing was a very important piece in a lot of ways. It was also a puff piece in a lot of ways. This documentary is a complete vanity project in a lot of ways. You know, and there's good, that doesn't mean there's not good things to it.
I think Caitlyn's all about Caitlyn.
It's 100%, it's all soft. You go on Ellen because Ellen is going to be soft. She's lovable, she's the dancing
You're not going to go on Wendy.
Yeah, you're not going to go on Wendy. Or you're not going to go on, you know, Lou Dobbs or Fox News. You're not going to go to one of those places. You're going to go to somebody who's going to give you an interview that's going to make you look better. You're not going on Rush Limbaugh. But you go on Ellen and you mess it up. You mess it up a little bit.
It should be noted. That's all I'm saying.
This is a big thing.
No one has a bad Ellen interview. I didn't even see how Caitlyn walked out and danced, but I remember seeing Ellen, the clip that I saw from the Howard Stern show, how she said that he asked, did Caitlyn dance with you? And she was like, no, not really.
So
It's just Caitlyn seems rigid and pretentious.
Yeah, the producer side of me on the whole Ellen thing is just this. Like, I finally got to work backstage on a talk show, and this is how a lot of things work. We saw earlier this season that Caitlyn was going to get, I'm sorry, I forget the girl's name, that wanted to meet Ellen. Blossom.
Yes.
She wanted to get Blossom to Ellen. Ellen's team then comes back and is like, if you want us to do this for you, you have to do this for us.
Give us this.
You have to give us the interview, the exclusive. And in that, because Ellen and Caitlyn are friends or know each other, they're thinking, okay, it's going to be all like light and puffy. And then
Boom.
Ellen gets an answer that she's not really expecting. And then shit hits the fan and it's like, okay, I love that Ellen still stood up and, you know, pushed the subject more, because a lot of people, like Danica said, would have backed off of it at that point. But just from
a good host stands her ground.
Yeah, a good host stands her
his
ground.
or her.
Yeah.
Well, and to be fair to Caitlyn, and I know we're not being fair, or not that we're not being fair to her, but we're being tough on her. To be fair to her, she owned hers too. She wasn't dishonest about this.
She did.
I wonder,
and she gave Blossom a $20,000 check.
Yeah.
I mean, not to take away from what she
did.
did, but she gave Blossom a $20,000 check and sent her on good luck, you know, in your future endeavors.
Now, Lance Bass went on Meredith Vieira, which is a sentence I will never again repeat in my goddamn life.
You know she's coming back for season 2. I didn't think that I love Meredith, but I love View moderator Meredith.
Side note, I'm 100% diametrically opposed to you. I don't know what Meredith Vieira's deal is and how she got a job on TV and how the three of you don't have her job.
I
don't
agree, but
I don't get it. But that's neither here nor there.
I'll take.
Lance Bass goes on Meredith Vieira and actually defended Caitlyn, and this is not verbatim, but he kind of said, when I first came out publicly, I would still be like, oh, that girl's hot, that girl's a babe, because it's so culturally ingrained in you. And he says it takes a while.
You can still think people are hot. I think girls are hot, and I'm not a lesbian.
That's true. I love Sofia Vergara. She's so hot.
I took it more to mean like in a leering, like sleazy,
Yeah.
like a stereotypical guy's guy way.
Like,
but
ooh,
it
look
maybe
that ass.
maybe that's his way of saying, hey, give Caitlyn what?
Is it like, ooh, look at that ass? That's like my sleazy guy lingo.
Yeah.
That's exactly.
I hear
that's
Bobby
exactly
walking around
how we
LA
talk.
saying that all the time.
Look at that brain.
I'm all for cutting slack, but I'm also all for holding you accountable.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Caitlyn's not new to this game. She's not new to this media game. That's a 65-year-old woman. It's not a 15-year-old Disney star. And I mean, like I said, I'm all for cutting slack, but I'm also all for holding you accountable.
There's a difference between Ariana Grande licking a donut and talking crap about America, and Caitlyn Jenner saying this about same-sex marriage, which affects her community.
Ariana Grande. That's almost worse, I think, in a way.
I was about to say not quite, because Ariana knew better.
That's true.
Bobby, you're not allowed to do analogies anymore.
But that's the point.
They're both horrible.
That's the point, because Caitlyn is so media trained, not just television media stuff like that, but the speaker stuff. The speaker stuff that she's been doing for how many decades now? The Olympic training that she had. And I don't mean athletic stuff. I mean the media and
just
everything
media,
around it.
yeah.
It's
ultimately what it comes down to, though, guys, is like, we can sit here and say all we want, but Caitlyn has the right to her own views and opinions still.
It just puzzled me.
Yeah, and this is how she feels, and this is what she thinks is right in her mind, and until she kind of comes over, she can express that. And I mean, I'm kind of with Lance Bass, and like, you know, Caitlyn was brave to say that because she knew there was going to be a backlash about it, especially within the community. So I think
I don't think that she predicted the backlash, and I'm not taking away from your point. I'm not saying Caitlyn is wrong for thinking what she thinks. I'm just saying, as a spectator, it's interesting to watch. It's interesting to unfold. I have some questions for Caitlyn based on her statement. I'm not saying she can't think for herself or have her own opinions. It's just interesting, like I said, wheeling it back to my initial point when we opened the show, how you, as a member of an oppressed community, can have the balls, for lack of better terms, to do the oppressing. Like, how dare you? That's just how I look at it.
And I think to that point, that's the thing. Nobody's saying she shouldn't have said it or she's not allowed to say it. You can say whatever you want.
You can.
Except for, like, yelling fire in a crowded theater. There are limits, but
Or
this isn't
bombing an
one.
airport.
Yeah. But that doesn't mean that we can't say your opinion's kind of shitty.
She's not above reproach.
Yeah.
exactly.
And I'm going to critique her. That's why I'm sitting right here. I'm gonna,
exactly.
That's
why we're here. But she made it seem like marriage doesn't really have any meaning or purpose in a way. And could you imagine if you were like Chris and you listened to that Ellen interview and like what marriage means to Caitlyn? Like, oh, it's just some word kind of thing. It's like No, it's not just that to a lot of people. It means security for a lot of people that don't have money and stuff like that. Like, not everyone's in that same bracket that she's in. She's in her own pink cloud or whatever they called it. I don't know. I thought she just made it seem like
and it means
marriage
rights.
didn't matter to...
That's the point of the piece of paper.
Taxes.
Right.
Yeah.
Whole bunch of stuff, but
I guess we should probably get into the actual show.
Speaking of Chris, I was about to say, speaking of
I was
Chris.
trying to tangent into that secretly because I want to talk about her.
Danica, please transition out for us.
Okay, so first of all, there's a lot of new shows coming out this fall. Are you guys excited for fall? Like,
I love fall. It's the
Amazing
best time of
food,
the-
all the TV shows coming back.
Your makeup
but
stays on in the daytime.
Baseball
exactly,
season
we're
ends.
not melting. But
football,
there's a new show coming out. I'm excited for tons of TV coming out. But there's this new one called Quantico. It's coming out September 27th. And it's a new drama. And it's about all these FBI people training. And it's like this elite group. 100,000 young people apply and only 1,200 get in.
Ooh.
And they're like the smartest, youngest, strongest people. But there's a terrorist attack, and someone on the good guys team is the one that was the terrorist. So you're trying to figure out who it is. It's going to be all mysterious,
Like How to Get Away with
big
Murder.
drama. I love this stuff. I'm still watching Pretty Little
I can't
Liars, so
wait.
I'm excited to check it out.
No, I watched the
But-
trailer for it the other night, and I have to say it looked really,
looks
really
good.
good. And it was like, oh, one of them is a terrorist. I'm like, what? In our government? Like, the government might, like, be terrorists? Oh, my gosh. So it was really exciting, and I was like,
about to say.
I love a good whodunit type of TV show.
Can you make
We
that
did
noise
it.
again?
What?
Thank you. All right, I'm good. Two's good.
I love these kind of shows too, like predicting what's going to happen next, and you're like, it's going to make you on the edge of your seat. So you got to check it out, and it premieres Sunday, September 27th, and at 9 p.m. on ABC. So
Yeah.
you can check it
Quantico,
out.
can't wait to watch you.
Can't wait to
Woo.
watch you either. I'll be watching. I always give shows 2 episodes.
Oh, I give them like a full season.
I like binge
I'm
watching
saying
all.
I try to, new shows. I try to
Yeah.
give them 2 episodes to see, you get the feel for it.
I'm
Tiana
addicted to Netflix. I have a
Tiana hadn't
problem.
seen the sunlight in 15 years.
Yeah, me too.
Pretty much, I'm addicted
Well,
to
her
TV.
melanin tells a different
Girl.
story.
That's why we're
I
here.
have been to the beach a lot lately.
Let's talk. Speaking of giving shows 2 episodes, we gave this one 8. Season finale. Is it series finale? We don't know yet. I got the impression
Season.
this is it.
They said season finale.
So they're gonna come.
That's how it's being marketed.
No announcement yet.
No announcement, but
there's
they
been-
said season
Okay.
finale. That's how E has
I
been
think
saying
there's
it.
going to be a second.
Me too.
You do or you don't?
I
I
think
do.
there will be.
I do.
I think this one got a lot of views. I feel like people are into it.
I don't know.
It's tough. I faded hard episode to episode to episode down the season, and so I don't want to take my point of view and say, oh, everybody faded, the show wasn't great, because
No.
all of our points of view are unique. But the ratings went down. I think they were still pretty good for E, but they went down pretty consistently. I don't know if I would watch a second season, to be honest.
Well, I think the
There's
bigger
gotta be
thing
fun
is
if it's bigger.
Caitlyn going to want to do a second season? Caitlyn,
Well, she
hasn't-
is the executive producer of this show, and like I said, they marketed it as the season
but
finale.
you always do that until you decide, because if they can't get Caitlyn to sign up again to do
Yeah.
it, then it'll be canceled. And to me,
It'll be
I just
Call Me
don't see
Candace.
Caitlyn. Yeah, I don't feel.
Don't
yeah,
start.
It'll be Candace's show. I
That's
don't.
probably what's going to happen is Candace is going to have
Listen,
a show.
I hate to say this.
Call
and-
Me Candace.
And you don't want to say this, but Caitlyn right now is going through lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit for that car accident. When she went on Diane Sawyer, and Diane Sawyer asked her, "Are you doing this for money?" Her first initial response, do you remember what it was? I'm not going to lie. I got bills to pay. I'm trying to make money. But I'm also doing this for all these reasons. That opens you up to this criticism that I am about to say. If the bill collector comes calling, Caitlyn Jenner signs up for season 2.
Pretty much.
It's a cash cow. This is TV. This is what they do. And so you have these weird, and we've talked about this on this after show all season long. You have a parallel dynamic here of this really important story and a really important community that needs its story to be told, and this idea and this issue that needs to be focused upon. And then you've got the business. And both sides are equal, and actually probably, and the cynical side of me thinks that the business side is probably a little more equal on television.
Yeah.
So I
But
hate to say it.
it's not just the checks paying all those bills. It's also all the attention from the show, her being a hero, is outshining all this lawsuit stuff. It's not like Caitlyn, a year in jail for manslaughter, like headlines everywhere. It's like, oh my gosh, Caitlyn and Candace seen at the Abbey or whatever, you know?
But
It's a good way to like shadow over all that.
It's also
kinda
E
distract.
reporting on all that stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
It's
E's
the
doing
own
it, the
thing.
business side. of E is report, keep her name in the news so that people want to tune into the show.
Yeah.
But
and those lawsuits are coming irrespective of the show. Those lawsuits are that's a serious thing.
Do you
It's a
think
really
Caitlyn
serious
would
thing,
be
but-
open enough to having the nitty gritty of those lawsuits being a part of the show?
No.
Because that's what
No.
E would want.
No.
That's what we would
I
want to
would wanna
watch.
see that.
So
I'd
if
be
you're not going to
interested.
give us what the audience
not gonna do
wants,
that.
then what's the point of doing a
They
lackluster
didn't even keep
show?
it real with the Chris interaction.
Yeah.
Tonight.
Oh my
It was
God, can we
so
get to
fake.
that?
And like, there's no way she would get that real. I think, but I don't even think that she's gonna. I mean, they're saying she's facing up a year to being in jail, and I'm
That
like,
woman
that's
ain't
not
going
gonna
to
happen.
nobody's jail.
That's not
Nope.
gonna happen at all. She's gonna be a princess.
Let's get to the specifics of this episode now. This season finale, season series, whatever it is. Chris part 2, I guess, because we saw
No,
last
this
week.
was Chris.
This was Chris.
You were right with just saying Chris, period,
Part one
because we
was
didn't
like
have a part
30
one.
seconds.
But that's
Part
that's-
one
but
was
that's-
like nice shoes. The
That's
end.
E. That's E.
And a
That's
box
the
of
problem.
cookies and a
so
delicious
short.
looking cheese tray,
Yeah.
cheese and grape tray.
That's E. The
They didn't give me
content
enough.
is no, they didn't. Absolutely.
Danica and I'm not going to speak for you, but I'm just going to group her
It's
in my
okay. I
statement.
totally get it because I feel yeah.
Danica and I were livid, okay?
You should be.
We wanted more Chris.
we were set up by E's promotional team to believe that this interaction was going to be more than
30
what it
minutes.
was.
25.
They
minutes.
gave us 15 minutes
built up for weeks and weeks in
with
advance.
commercials. So I don't even know if it was the whole 15 to 19 minutes of
Disappointment.
Chris and Caitlyn conversing, and I'm pissed because I could have went without, not jumping ahead, but I could have went without the Boy George gay men's chorus rehearsal. The performance was nice. I could have went without the rehearsal. I would have much rather, after that conversation, for the cameras to get in the car with Chris and for her to loudspeaker
Kylie.
dial, call one of her daughters, and then to be like, "Mom, how did it go?" And her be like, "Well,
That drama.
your father." Like, I would have loved to see.
Boy.
Like, I'm on my way home. Meet me there. Bring the red wine. Because I would have rather see that than all of the planning and it was so random to sneak for them to put in Caitlyn's decorated house. I know that she talked about it, but I could have did without that too. That could have been the end. You know how it ended.
100%.
Except really cute choices.
It was
Caitlyn.
really. I'm not taking away from
Love
it.
the
I'm just
furniture,
saying
but
it
I
was
get it.
unnecessary.
I hated all that Boy
because-
George stuff.
But the conversation what I did think was interesting was Chris had said that she felt like she was thrown under a bridge and she was blindsided, and that could immediately that kind of directly contradicts what Caitlyn said in the Diane Sawyer piece as far as Chris knowing that Caitlyn was on hormones for 2 years prior to them getting together and things like that. But I think Chris was more so because she kept emphasizing Vanity Fair. I don't know if you all remember, but I don't really remember what was said in the Vanity Fair
I remember the article
but
that much.
I remember seeing like headlines like the gloves have come off, Caitlyn versus Chris and things like that. But I mean, I get it. I totally get it. I see Chris's side.
I actually thought Caitlyn said some pretty, not really nasty things, but some kind of serious things, the Vanity Fair thing, about thinking that she was being mistreated by Chris, that Chris was, I don't know if I'd go so far as saying mentally abusing, but that's sort of the angle
She alluded
that was
to
taken.
that.
Yeah.
But you know what? That was Chris's her issue with Caitlyn. From what I got from their conversation is we had all of these great years. So for you to run to the media and Vanity Fair of all publications and for you to reduce our 25-year marriage to the last few years when we were arguing like cats and dogs, that's hurtful. But I could also, because I know this one guy who went to high school and middle school with the Jenner girls, with Kendall and Kylie, and he did say that Caitlyn was there every day dropping those girls off and picking them up. So just to lead into how Caitlyn wasn't invited to Kylie's graduation, that's just such a slippery slope.
I did not feel bad for Chris at all in this because she was so rude to Bruce and mean. Bruce was always in the corner, like he had such a tight leash and like, I don't know, I felt like they didn't have such a happy marriage and she was controlling everything and he had his little tiny area in the garage and he'd make
But that was in the later years. We saw, you say you
Yeah,
watch
I mean,
all things
I watched
Kardashian.
all
Remember
of
their
it,
E! True
but
Hollywood story?
For the last like
they
3
were happy.
years, Bruce was in the corner. Like, I think that she was horrible to him and that they don't need to be BFFs. They got
They
a
don't.
divorce. I can't even be friends with my exes, and I've never even been close to marriage. I'm like, I get that you have kids together, but do you
they
really
also
need to
have
go have
25
drinks and like
years.
I don't know. It seems very staged. I don't think they need
Well,
to be
the
best
ending was
friends.
definitely staged. All that selfie mess, that was definitely staged.
Guys, everything about that conversation was
Everything
staged.
was.
Well,
And
yeah,
The
yeah.
only upsetting thing for her was the Vanity Fair thing,
See-
not the transition. It was like, oh, you were on
She's
this
like, "You
magazine
look
cover.
great.
And
I'm
didn't
so
tell me."
happy
And
for
here
you.
is why I'm not on. I mean, I feel bad for Kris Jenner, and during this conversation, I was actually feeling more sorry for her because I felt like Caitlyn wasn't being very open to hearing what she had to say and interpreting that and then speaking. It was just Caitlyn was defensive from the start. And I was like, you don't have to do this with Kris right now. But the reason why I'm not usually team Kris Jenner is because she's so mad about this Vanity Fair article. Is it because she didn't have control of the press in this situation?
100%.
Probably.
And I'm like, that's why you're so upset, because you weren't consulted before she went to Vanity Fair. You
Right.
weren't sitting in the room with her
I
as she
see
was
that.
asked the questions and listening to what she said.
But didn't you also look at it from the angle, and I don't know if this is a fair comparison, but you know, like when you grow up in the same house, like I have sisters, something could have happened when we were younger about anything, and we all have 3 different perspectives on it. Because Caitlyn didn't think that she's like, what was so bad about Vanity Fair? And Kris was like, are you serious? You don't hear what I'm talking? You don't hear what I'm saying about Vanity Fair? Like,
That to me, that was the biggest irony of this whole season to me, was that moment. Because that moment, what Caitlyn Jenner is doing with the general public is asking for empathy. Be empathetic towards me, towards this community that is misunderstood or you don't know about it. You don't have to accept us, worship us, love us. Be empathetic and understand what's going on. That empathy that she's asking for,
It's not
she
being
is
extended.
not giving it back
You're right.
to the people
Hypocrite.
closest to her. And I understand it's tough, and there's a history there that we'll never see on TV, and there's also an edit there that we don't know how it happened on TV. But it's such a weird, ironical, hypocritical... Ironical's not a word,
But where
you know.
I did not agree with Kris Jenner on was the whole graduation party. And
That was-
I don't know
that
if
was
it
horrible.
was just a graduation party or if it, because they just said the graduation. That makes it sound like her ceremony
Yes.
that
It's
Caitlyn
both.
was not invited
yeah, it was
to.
both.
She
It was both.
graduated online. She did some online school,
Yeah.
and it's like a certificate you get
Yeah.
in the mail, and they threw a party. It's
And the
not
party
like they
was lavish.
walk
I
at,
watched
like, a
on
real
Snapchat.
thing.
no, the party was
too.
great.
Shar was there on Snapchat.
No,
yeah.
really, I was. I was looking
Snapchat,
like, oh
you
my
guys.
God, did my invite get lost in the mail? Wow, this party is banging. The food looks great.
So-
Look at Chloe
So the
twerking.
arguments for those, I
Yeah. Hold on,
understood.
She
Pause,
was twerking
pause.
like crazy at that graduation party.
Was Tyga there?
Tyga was there.
Tyga
Oh!
was there.
Of course,
Tyga
Tyga
Of course
was
he
there.
was there.
Continue.
So the argument on both sides of this is that, you know, Kris is saying we're divorced now. Divorced people don't have to throw joint parties and don't have
But
to
Kris
be
would have been
involved
throwing
in
a
everything.
fit
Yeah,
if the
but-
shoe were on the other foot.
Exactly. And I'm like, Caitlyn said she was upset with everybody because when it boils down to it, if you're doing a graduation thing, your daughter doesn't have a traditional ceremony, so you decide to put this on. I think it's only fair that the person who served as your daughter's father figure and drove her to school, picked her up from school,
Every day.
did every single day, was so involved in
Stuck
her life,
in traffic.
stuck in
This
traffic,
LA traffic.
still involved in her daughter's life. You know, that's not fair to leave them
At
out
all.
purposely
At all.
like that. But then at the same time, Caitlyn, you could throw your daughter her own party. Divorced
Or-
kids, 2 parties.
But you know what?
You could technically do that too. If you wanted to celebrate
That is
your
true.
daughter's accomplishment, Caitlyn, get off your ass and do something.
She's so used to Kris in that
Yeah.
role with party
She-
planning.
exactly.
But I thought it was interesting with when Kris brought up, you're leaving us in the dust, and you all of these new people are in your life. You're leaving us in the dust because Caitlyn has made it so clear on this show. Hey, I'm here. Nobody wants to come visit me. I've asked everybody to come visit me. So what is the girl supposed to do but really go start a new family with Candace and the girls? No one wants to come see me. So I thought that was also interesting for Kris to say, you went off with these people and you left your family in the dust, but Caitlyn has been there the whole time. We've seen on the show, and Caitlyn seems genuinely hurt. All E shenanigans aside, she seems genuinely hurt that there is like this maybe public front
Yeah.
that everybody, but we see, you know.
The only other side of that, just to play devil's advocate, because I love doing that, is that yes, Caitlyn's hurt and she's reached out to these people to come see her, but why isn't she going to see them?
That
Why
is
is it
true.
always just
Also, they
She's
said
not
they
leaving the
haven't
house.
woman
talked
that
Yeah.
don't
at
like
all.
driving.
yeah, it's like, hey, you're not coming to see me, but the shoe works both ways. You're not going to see them either. You're not putting in an extra effort to make sure, oh, you're not responding. Okay, well, I know you're going here. I'm going to
And I know
meet
that this
you
is
there.
a difficult trend, not to talk over you, Danica, because I know you have a point to
It's
make.
okay.
But I know this is a transition that we're all going through as a family. So that is a good point.
Yeah.
If I want you in my life and you may not be having the easiest time with this, with coming to see me, I'm going to go the extra mile, especially as the parental figure, to come see you and hold your hand through this because
Yes.
we're all still learning.
That's all
Go.
that I wanted her to do.
Well, I'm just like, Caitlyn probably hasn't called Chris either. And usually when you're like, okay, I'm getting a divorce or like I'm going to start my life over again, like I'm going to completely start over as like a new person, I would wait for that person to reach out to me like, oh, they're starting things over. Maybe they don't want to be friends with me anymore. It's like, especially from Chris's standpoint, they got a divorce.
It was messy
So
too.
she should be waiting for Caitlyn's call more than anything, I think.
Caitlyn she just rubs me. There's certain things that I just can't get with Caitlyn. That's why I don't know. I just feel like, and I know this may not be a fair statement, but at 27, at the tender age of 27, there is a certain protocol to interactions with people and how you do things and a certain decorum. And I just expect at 65, you to know these things. Like for her to look at it from that perspective. Well, maybe Chris would think, yada, exactly what you just said. So I don't know. Caitlyn, sometimes she...
There's a couple things about Caitlyn. I'm glad you're actually bringing this up because this gives me a good leeway to say this. At 65 is an interesting point because Caitlyn does a couple things that rub me the wrong way. One of them is that ironic asking for empathy but not giving empathy. That's a sign. The other sign is this. When you are talking to her, she goes, yeah, yeah.
Like
the
to
whole
try
time.
to rush, like shut you up.
Exactly. I'm waiting for me to talk. I'm not listening to you. I'm waiting for me to talk.
I'm not
Yeah,
listening.
yeah,
I'm listening
yeah,
for a response.
Yeah.
I'm not listening to sit in what you have to say.
Yeah,
And that's
exactly,
her being...
Just like
Listen.
Yeah, that's her being defensive from the start.
And it's not just defensive, but it's a terrible
Even
habit.
her posture, Tiona, when she sat down with her arms kind of open
And
and the
then
legs crossed,
motion for Chris
kinda
to like sit.
go.
Sit. I'm on my throne, but you sit there.
I think what we have here, and this is an interesting little like dichotomy, is you have Caitlyn Jenner, the transgender community conversation starter or conversation continuer in the public realm in some way, and then you have Caitlyn Jenner, the individual, who is just frankly probably not that likable of a person.
I don't think she is. I can't imagine myself. Nothing about Caitlyn makes me want to be her friend. And I was sharing this with them off camera. If I saw Caitlyn, I'd probably speak. I don't know if I'd ask for a picture because I don't know if I'd want to give her all of that. Because she seems already so, you know what I'm saying? I don't know if I want to give her that much life because she already seems so self-absorbed. Like she seems, and I know actions speak louder than words. It seems like she has great intentions. The show is fantastic for someone who may not know. It's basically transness, intro to transness. The show is great if no one... I'd give it to my grandparent if they didn't understand. Watch these 8 episodes. Maybe you can have a better understanding, versus what I could tell you.
Yeah.
Maybe if I didn't have the language to really unpack all of this. But at the end of the day, I just think Caitlyn, and she, in fairness, she did not ask to be the spokesperson, but she is, like you said, the conversation starter. Some people haven't heard of Laverne Cox. Everyone knows she transcends generations. Our grandparents know Caitlyn because of the Olympics. And I think I said this like first episode, and our little brothers and sisters and little cousins know her, as the crazy dad from that one reality show. So she is literally the conversation starter across generations. That's just,
I would say one quibble about that. She did ask for this when she went to Vanity Fair, when she went to Diane Sawyer, when she went to E! When you do stuff like that, you ask for it. I'm sorry. You can't then play dumb and say, well, what do you mean? Like, role model. I'm not trying to be I don't want to be a conversation starter. I just want to figure out my way. No. Not when your way is on TV.
Because she could have transitioned in private and just been harassed by TMZ.
And if you're harassed by TMZ, it's over the top, and they're the assholes, and you're the one who's trying to do something for you. But when
listen,
you
I'm just
go
trying to
the
mind my
media-
business type thing.
Exactly.
We have a
Second.
TMZ
Whoever
worker
it is.
here,
Hold
so...
Big celebrities like the Kardashians, the ones where they post pictures.
They call.
Yeah. Well, they're the best example. They post their own paparazzi pictures on their own Instagrams.
And they're good pictures.
They hire publicists to call media outlets so they can have a story or a photo be broadcast so they can, publicize whatever they're trying to promote. That's how this industry works.
No,
it's
for
a
sure.
business.
That's
it's
what
a
I'm saying.
game.
But I think we're
You
talking
gotta
about
stand up for TMZ.
in an
girl.
ideal
I
sense.
am standing up for TMZ.
In the ideal sense, if she were if she were truly trying to be private, trying to be alone, trying to be away from paparazzi and media and all that, but paparazzi were hounding her, we would look at her very different. She'd be a much more sympathetic figure. When you bring it upon yourself and then turn around and have to hide in the car because you don't want to be seen, it's
we hate it at TMZ when we see this show and she's like, oh, I have to climb in this car and
3
hide from the
different
paparazzi.
cars.
And we're like, oh, we're after you. No, we're not. We're not. Like, that's not how it's happening. Like, it's ridiculous.
One other aspect that I thought was interesting was how this episode seemed so religious.
Oh my
gosh. They brought up a lot of religious dialogue. And by the way, Caitlyn celebrating her name change. I didn't celebrate my name change either. I saw a lot of the girls talking about that. But I also thought Caitlyn's name, I thought I would share this with you all. And I said this on my YouTube show before she announced that she was Caitlyn.
YouTube.com/Shar
Says so.
There you go.
I said that I thought that she was going to be Margaret Jenner, Gertrude Jenner. But I think instead
Gertrude.
That's what because at the time I was operating off of Bruce. I didn't know Bruce, Caitlyn could be so fabulous. I thought that she was going to be Margaret or Gertie.
Listen, that name will make a comeback. That name will make, that's a cool name.
I think so.
Gertie.
Like a lot of the hipsters will name their children that.
Yes.
But I think from Caitlyn, I think that she should have. I don't know. I'm not trying to police her, but because she's so mature, I think she should have chosen Catherine and went by Caitlyn for short.
Caitlyn
Jenner.
Isn't that the same amount?
What'd she say?
Isn't that like is Caitlyn really
like,
short when your name's Catherine?
I mean, no,
Catherine?
but maybe Kate.
Kate
or Kat. She looks like a Catherine Jenner.
Okay.
Catherine.
Caitlyn's an interesting name choice. It's a younger name.
Yeah, when I heard it, I was like, call me Caitlyn, girl, what?
I don't think you're going to find too many 65-year-olds named Caitlyn. It's cool, whatever. But I think that also maybe speaks, and we could psychologically dress her down all night, but I think it speaks to this is a person in the entertainment industry who probably thinks or wants or believes they are younger than they really are.
Like her ex-wife.
Yeah.
Like everyone
Chris is in the club.
Mm-hmm.
Crispy, Chris is dating
that
young black guy with the lip gloss.
Yeah, he's so young too. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like who Chloe
But I
should
loved
be dating.
that they introduced. I didn't get the minister's name, but for her to be a transgender, transgender Baptist.
That's so wild to me.
Military background.
Baptist.
You don't always hear about Baptist. Transgender and Baptist in the same sentence, and then you want to tag on minister. That was kind of deep.
And I think that's why I didn't mind this episode going religious, because everyone knows Caitlyn is conservative, and she's talked about how, her faith, and then they finally kind of addressed the awkwardness of her trying to figure out how to keep her faith and accept her transgender.
But you know what? All of that, and I'm glad that what's the woman's name? Allison. Mm-hmm. I'm glad that she kind of touched on this because, some people take the Bible as chapter and verse. Some churches preach fire and brimstone. Others preach love and hope and forgiveness. We all know the conversation. Love. It should be, but not all churches go by that. Mm-hmm. But it should be noted that the Bible, if that is what you subscribe to, is open to interpretation. You can go to 4 different churches on one Sunday and all 4 pastors preach from the same chapter and verse and get 4 different things from those pastors. It is how you interpret it and your personal relationship with whomever you deem the creator, God, or whatever. But if you subscribe to Christianity, I think that you should understand the Bible for yourself and not rely on a religious figure to kind of translate that for you, because it can be translated in 1,000,001 different ways.
And it already has been. It's not in its original language anymore.
Exactly.
That's a bias.
Things are taken out and things are added in, and it was an interesting conversation. And I love how she separated the Old and the New Testament. With Jesus Christ, the New Testament, Christ, New Testament. So that's erasing essentially the Old Testament when Christ came and and they'll know we're Christians by our love type thing and forgiveness, and Jesus hung with everybody, prostitutes, thieves, and all of that. It wasn't. I feel like the Old Testament was like wrathful God, flooding the earth and sacrifice your son and don't do this, and that's where you find a lot of those scriptures that are argued against the LGBT community is in the Old Testament.
I thought it was interesting. It wasn't like they just talked about religion. It was like this ceremony was a religious ceremony. And it was so intense. Well, we never see Caitlyn going to church or being really religious in her day-to-day life. And then this ceremony was so
I've seen the Kardashians in church. That's all I got to say. I've never seen a paparazzi picture of Caitlyn leaving on Easter.
Bible?
But I've seen Chris and Kim and the girls and Little Mason. I've even seen Tyga, Kylie, and Little King Cairo, or whatever Tyga's son is named, leaving church. I ain't never seen Caitlyn or Bruce leaving church. So that's not taken away from her religious standpoint, but I'm just saying.
I thought it was interesting though, because religion helps. I'm not religious, but religion is kind of there to help people through hard times. It's there to help people through things. And I thought it was interesting that the only religious aspect of the show was this name change transition. I thought that was kind of like symbolic in a weird way.
I got a little, I guess, confused about the entire religious angle to this episode, because it seemed to me when you do religion in this way with a show that is about the transgender community, you have two very different demographics you're trying to attract here. And it's weird that they kind of put this in there. And it's also weird that they even felt the need, like she had to defend her religion. The time to me, and this is my point of view, and I'm sure people feel differently, but the people to me who need to defend their religion are the ones who are using it against others. The Josh Duggars. So when Josh Duggar goes out and does what he does.
Kim Davis.
Yes. But Josh Duggar, Kim Davis with 4 husbands or 4 ex-husbands. Josh Duggar,
Twins,
who does what he does with the Family Research Council or whatever.
Ashley Madison.
And then goes and does Ashley Madison. That's when you need to... I love
that. I call the Duggar family the gift that keeps on giving.
They're the worst.
They are literally the gift that keeps on giving.
But that to me, if you're gonna be visible with your religion, that's great. If you're gonna use it against others, you better defend your visible religion.
Well, maybe Caitlyn has. Remember, in fairness, going back to Ellen, she did mention she's always believed that marriage was defined by man and woman. And she's a traditionalist, so maybe you never know what you just never know.
Or she was donating money even, or something like that. That's a good point. But it seemed to me, it was like, why do you have to defend this if you haven't outwardly said anything or done anything? You don't lobby for a super conservative group, and
remember they showed her mom with the clip asking the woman what's her interpretation on the scripture.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I love that the minister said that God loves us not in spite of who we are, but because of who we are. That's a quote that I think I want, like, on my bathroom wall. Like, it's a good one.
It is.
It's a good one.
And it's true.
What else do we talk about? Boy George?
Oh, gosh.
Boy George.
Can we talk about, that ceremony?
Yeah.
It was not really about Caitlyn and her name change. It was Candace singing Amazing
solo.
Grace horribly for way too long.
You guys already know what Stefan would say if he were here.
I wish he was. Stefan, we miss you.
You know what, though? Like, I don't think Candace did anything good for her career by singing on camera.
No.
Like, it hurt her career probably.
She should have just kept putting her leg up here.
She was so flat. And it's so funny when we were watching, because I cheated and watched a little of this episode when I first got into the studio. But Tiona looks and says, ooh, because one of Candace's notes was like, me. Like, it was nasally.
I was like pointing my finger up,
flat.
Get it up there, girl.
A little higher.
It was nasally. I also want to note really quickly that Meryl Streep is doing a fantastic job playing Jenny Boylan. Like, she can really act as everybody. Like, this, I don't know what it was about this episode, but I was like, Jenny Boylan. It was when she took her glasses off and when she was around the pole and they got on the party bus. I was like, is that not Meryl Streep?
Oh my gosh, she looks like Meryl now.
I said she looked, and then Mimi Marks, who I know personally from the Trans 100 back in Chicago. Mimi, I did not realize how much you look like Jamie Lee Curtis. And this episode, it just screamed like
that short haircut.
I think it was.
It's the haircut.
She looked good though.
Freaky Friday.
Mimi, you looked good, but Jenny Boylan, Meryl, girl, you just stay winning. You can play anybody.
That's method acting, I do believe.
Yeah. My biggest thing about the whole ceremony was that we spent the first 15 minutes about this episode talking about how Caitlyn wants her family to be around and how she doesn't understand why people aren't coming in. Where was your family? Were they invited? Did you call them and say, "Hey, we're doing this"? Every event Caitlyn has had on this show, she has not included family
It's her
members.
tribe
It's her
now.
tribe. And something
Please,
like
I hated that when she said that.
and I feel like
Tribe.
something as important as a name-changing ceremony that you're having, if you told your kids, I know they all have crazy schedules where they're all across the globe doing stuff, but if they're here and have the time, they would have made an effort to be there for her, to support her in this light. And that just goes back to the whole argument with Chris of like, yes, you can sit here and play victim all day, Caitlyn, about how no one's coming to see you, but until you put the effort out there, they're not gonna come.
I had not thought about that until you mentioned it. It would have been
That was
nice.
my biggest question. I was like, where's the family
It
at?
would have been nice to see Courtney
Anyone.
and little Mason, Penelope, and Rain, and Kim and Kanye and North, and they're
If it was
white.
fun.
Even if it was
at the ceremony.
Yeah, even if it was just like Chloe popping up again, or
Yeah.
Kylie. We didn't see Kendall, like maybe or
Kendall wasn't in it. Kendall and Courtney.
yeah.
That's
So
all I gotta say is Kendall and Courtney.
I feel like Kendall and I almost said Bruce, but Bruce, Caitlyn are a lot alike. I don't know if you guys have watched like the older episodes of the Kardashians where it's like the family goes to Greece or wherever, and Kendall's like antisocial and kind of wants to be like on her own, like introverted, almost acts like an only child in a way. I feel like Bruce, Caitlyn kind of acts that way too. And
Kendall
wants
is so
the other people
philanthropic, too. I really like her.
reach out.
She's different.
yeah. So that was my only question for that.
I wonder too, because it's so insular. She is so isolated within a group that she categorically knows will always support her, which is, you need that sometimes. We definitely need that sometimes.
Yeah.
But she didn't outwardly, that we know on television, invite family members, invite cis friends. I'm sure there were some there. We didn't get that impression.
Oh, Courtney, her hairdresser. That's the only cisgender and Boy George.
That's a
And
good point.
her and
and the gay
assistant
men's
was there.
choir.
But even then, they didn't invite non-LGBT
Yeah.
identifying folks. It's like, to me, and when we can't psychologically diagnose her, but to me, I just wonder, are you still insecure? Are you still self-conscious about
think
this?
she is.
Yeah.
After, because you're the one who said 60 years, I'm coming out now, this is great, you got a great
I
reception
got all my
for it.
surgeries before I got my name changed and my gender marker.
So quickly.
Still think it's so interesting.
And still, and if you're insecure, that's I can understand why. There's a ton of criticism. But if you're insecure around family and friends, cis family and friends, non-LGBT family and friends, who are going to have your back, even if they're confused or whatever, that should tell you something. And that's a weird aspect to this, that maybe Caitlyn jumped the gun on things like the show.
But you know what? I feel like they cheated us with certain things. And, viewers, call me out if I'm wrong, but I feel like the teaser that we saw before this even kicked off, I felt like it was more so, we saw interactions being teased with Caitlyn and more of her cisgender male friends. But when the show aired, it was just the guy with the helicopter. She was missing
And
a
Scott.
node.
They
but
never
listen.
showed up.
And Scott,
or
but
they
the
left.
way that in the 2-minute season, mega trailer, I felt like it was like we saw other guys that were edited out.
Well,
Those
Welcome-
things are meant to.
Welcome to E.
Yeah.
This is E. And it's not just E. Every channel is,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
this
they're
is
also
E.
meant to trick you and misguide you to
E-
make you.
E-
I'm
tune in.
like, ooh, we're gonna see her, going with the boys and how they're gonna receive her, and we didn't see that. We
didn't
also didn't
see-
see her go to the LGBT youth center when she had on her rain boots and her skinny jeans.
Yeah.
I
We
saw
also
those
didn't
all on
see
TMZ.
her kids from other marriages outside of the
I knew that they weren't
going
gonna
to
be there.
Clan.
I
yeah,
knew that, I read in the
we
press
haven't-
release that Brody. Oh, hi Brody.
I
Brody
love
and the
him.
rest of the kids, they were not going to be in it. I just heard that the Kardashian kids
Yeah.
would be in. But then again, I thought
then
more
also-
Kardashian kids. The first 2 episodes, within the first 3 episodes, we got Kim, Kanye, and Chloe. So I'm thinking it's going to be more interactive. And I don't know. Overall, I was totally disappointed in this finale. I just have to say, and it's just as Danica and I predicted last week, when it was just the 2 of us, we said half was going to be Chris and Caitlyn's conversation, the other half was going to be this name change
Except
ceremony.
Chris was like 2 seconds. It went by way
It's just,
too
I'm
fast.
disappointed in it. Overall, I liked the show, but this season finale, you all could have kept this. You could have just did an
I thought
hour and
it
a half
was-
last episode and just showed the Chris conversation and ended it there.
I think they could have made a grand finale, but I loved watching the transition through this season. Like,
Yeah.
she's going through this big transition, and you're seeing, like, her old friends that she used to talk to are kind of, like, blowing her off, and the family's kind of distant. And it seemed very summer camp. Like, all these trans women together, hanging out, doing these things. And then I felt like the finale was like, all right, last day of summer camp. Oh, I have no friends now. Or, like, where's my family? Like, it seems, I'm like, who does Caitlyn hang out with
Absolutely.
in real life? It seems so staged, so summer camp to me, the way they're going around. I kind of feel like
Well,
she's
she's still with
lonely, and it
Cam.
makes me kind of feel bad for her.
Don't forget, it should be noted that Candace, when she was walking out of the house, was like, my wife's about to come out.
Yep.
I hated that moment. I'm so glad you brought
Girl,
that up.
give me
My
a
wife.
break. I'm so sick of these perpetuated rumors that they're romantic. It's just like, Candace is milking this, and girl, I can't even hate on your hustle. But
Did
she annoys me.
Did Stefan and I not say this like 6 weeks ago? Never trust actors. Never.
yeah,
Never.
You all did tell me
It's
that.
a good advice, though. There's some
Because she is
crazy
an
actors
actress,
in LA.
but she really milked this, and I'm not hating on her hustle, but this last episode, she got up under me, like...
My biggest concern in this thing is, remember how episode 1 started. First thing we see in episode 1 is Caitlyn at 2:30 in the morning with a supposedly handheld camera, can't sleep, thinking about transgender teens and suicide. Where'd we go with that?
Nowhere.
We went nowhere. She went to
Episode 1, she went down to San Diego or whatever.
And we were loving episode 1. Do
Loved
you guys
it.
remember
This
how
was right
excited
before you
we
came
were?
out.
We
Yeah,
were
I
like,
wasn't with you, but I
Loved
loved
it.
it too, because the family aspect. Esther came down, the sisters came, they met, and then she took the little road trip and to one of the sands. I can't remember if it was Diego or Francisco, and met with
Diego.
That's
That's the funniest thing I've ever heard of.
and met with the parent and all that, and the I forgot
family.
all about that until they
Yeah.
did the little montage recap with the little girl that was crying.
Didn't go anywhere with that. And I'm not saying that it's Caitlyn Jenner's responsibility to fix suicide in the transgender community, because it's not
But
on
if it's
her.
keeping you up at night,
But if it's keeping you up at night, if that's your thesis statement at the top of the first episode to bring us in, go somewhere with that. Don't go to your stupid road trip in episodes 2 and 3 that had us literally pulling our hair out. Don't go to this, all these, Boy George and the gay
she went to
men's
the
chorus
summer
and
camp.
So
though,
much
in
The
fluff.
fairness.
summer camp.
The youth camp. She went to the youth summer camp.
She
in
did, but she went to
fairness.
HRC in San Francisco. But even then, the interactions were so, from her perspective, disjointed that it's.
Because she still was saying, I'm so glad Shandy called her to the carpet about that. By
Yeah.
the way, season 2, if she does come back for season 2, I'd love to see like Caitlyn and Shandy take LA. I don't want to see she
Take
needs
the
like
South.
she needs to come back with a different sidekick. Like Candace, you had your season, sis. I'm gonna need Shandy to be the wife.
Candace will get her own
this,
show.
This
I got it. Caitlyn and Shandy get an apartment in Koreatown.
I just want to see Shandy read Caitlyn. I just want to see some Miss Thing, or as my favorite girl, Chow Cheese.
Let's go.
Chelsea.
Let's go to let's go to
That's what
LA.
she says.
Let's get out of Malibu. That's half
Yes.
the problem.
Yeah.
Let's go to LA, or let's go to elsewhere in this country. Hard miss for me. Season wide hard miss.
It had its
More
moments.
content.
It was,
so
but-
much fluff.
With
That's
this
right.
finale, I didn't hate it as much as everyone else on this panel did, apparently. I'm just sitting here quietly because I was just
That's
like,
That's because you hate Kris Jenner and she was barely in it, so you're like,
And she was crying.
well, if you think about it, an hour-long episode of television is what, 42 minutes, and she had 15 minutes of that. That's the majority of the show that was
Kris
dedicated
Jenner.
to
There
Kris
was
Jenner.
more amazing grace from Candace than there was Kris Jenner.
No,
which
there
is
wasn't.
not okay.
Kris Jenner is such an instrumental part to the E! Network. She deserved more airtime.
But this is why I didn't
Team
hate.
Kris.
This is why I didn't hate the ending and how it went off, because the network doesn't know if it's coming back or not. So they can't leave you the cliffhanger type of drama they would leave you on a Kardashian
next
show
season on
because
I Am
they
Cait.
do not know the future. A season 1 reality show always finishes with the bow nicely tied, and like here's
Yeah.
where we started from, is with Caitlyn waking up to the world, to here's where she is now, a different person because of these women she surrounded herself with. It's a nice little bow on the end in case the season 2 doesn't happen. So I'm sitting here thinking like, okay, yeah,
But
for
just,
season 1,
Tiona,
that's
overall
okay.
content.
Overall content, blah, but we're talking about the finale episode.
Got you.
Well, let's do overall now. What do you think of the whole season?
Overall of the season, I'm like you. I started off at like a 11.15 million up here and ended at probably like a 5. Maybe a 4. I just thought that the content went down and my interest in
My interest too.
stuff went way down. But that's just me.
I signed up to do this show a long time ago when I heard it was coming on. When they first started rumoring, I was like, I'm doing this. I got to do this after show. Excited about the first week. Really excited about the second week, and then the road trip happened. And by now, if there's a season 2, I ain't coming back. It's really because of you guys. I don't want to be with y'all anymore. But no, but this is not about me. I mean, it doesn't matter. But I'm not coming back because there's
nothing left.
interest. It's not about being relatable. I can't relate to her, but that's fine. You want to learn about people you can't relate to because they're different. It's not about the relatability. It's about she's not a very likable person. The storylines they're doing are 99% fluff, which is great for the Kardashians because
But
that
not-
is fluff, but not for this.
My thing with this overall content is I think it had its moments. And I think I said this the first time that I did this show. I think that it was the perfect, at first I was thinking this is going to be the perfect mix of education, information, and have a Kardashian flair. So I'm here for it. But as time has went on, and like I was even defending, Caitlyn on radio interviews. If you all follow Shar Says So, then you know I did my fair share of, because Caitlyn, yes, because social media blew up, and I had to check some people. But just to piggyback off what you said, she does not seem like a likable person. I'm not taking anything away from her because it appears as if she's fighting the good fight and she is the trans figurehead, so to speak. But overall, Caitlyn, the more that this went on and the more that I really started prying into her personality, and I know people personally that are on this show, and it just, I don't know, she just put a bad taste in my mouth. She put a bad taste in my mouth, and she's a great conversation starter, but overall, I just think that Caitlyn is not about helping the community. Caitlyn is all about Caitlyn, and that is where I have a problem. That's where I have a serious problem, because don't mask it. If you're going to be your authentic self, then truly be your authentic self. Don't be out here faking the funk for ratings or for friends or for what have you. So, and like you said, Tiona, I started out with an 11 point, 1100, and it got boring. I kind of lost interest too. It got boring. The teasers would be great next week on, I Am Cait, and then you watch the episode and it's just like, where's the Kardashian promo for next Sunday where we get the 4 episodes when they go to Armenia?
It's coming. I can't wait. We're doing that show right here on AFTERBUZZ, so get ready. Shar, question uniquely and specifically for you. Did Caitlyn promote, set back, or do nothing for the transgender community?
I don't think she sat back. I think that she promoted, but it's strictly based on the things, like she raised awareness. It was interesting to see, Candace not being this actress and not having access to hormones and healthcare. It's interesting seeing Caitlyn talk to people in the community with Shandy's Blush Foundation at the hospital about name changes. So each episode kind of had a theme to educate people on things that trans people may go through, but I don't think that Caitlyn really didn't have anything to say because she really hasn't been through anything as a trans woman. She did not experience. So those conversations were so important to have. They were imperative to the storyline because she ain't been through nothing. Like, she has not had to face a hurdle other than it appears socially. Yeah. That's it. How are my guy friends going to receive me? How am I going to date? Like, that was the bit. And that's typically not the meat of what trans people go through. And the hurdle she faced was the national media hurdle, which is a huge hurdle, I'm guessing. But it's not a hurdle anyone else faces. Somebody's got to do it, but the average person never going to face that hurdle. Right.
Well, and the public, I feel like everyone was pretty supportive. And not everyone. I should rephrase that.
Girl, I don't know if that's
everyone,
a fair statement.
But I feel like, I don't know, people embraced her.
I would say the embrace / ambivalence, hey, do whatever you want, that's cool, probably outweighed the bad.
Yeah, I heard way more of that.
But Ellen
support.
speaking out may hurt her. Yeah. Just letting you know, sis, if you're watching, Ellen speaking out against you is going to make people pry, and who knows. I think we're going to get more negative Caitlyn press. She's going to show more that may hurt her image. I called before Thanksgiving something's going to happen.
I don't want to gloat. I called this 3 months ago. I knew this was going to happen. There's a backlash to every huge media story. The backlash is coming. Whether it's fair or not, the backlash is coming.
Before I called by Thanksgiving, we're going to be sitting around slicing into whatever you're eating, because not everybody eats turkey. And some people are vegan. Faux turkey. But the conversation, the water cooler conversation is going to be something Caitlyn did or said that was totally counterproductive and or stupid.
On that note, let's finish it there. Final thoughts, looking ahead, what do you guys think?
I will watch season 2. I love I Am Cait. I was super into it. Yes, it started off at a higher note, little lower in the end, but I'm into it. I think Caitlyn's fascinating. I'm excited to see what's happening next.
I'll be here too. If you don't come back, Bobby, I'll be here. Danica, I'll be here for season 2. I'll be here for season 2 because I feel like I owe it to you all to justify and break down and unpack some of the potential BS that may be hurtled to you through Caitlyn. So I'll be here.
I think I'm gonna have to take notes from Shar over there, and I'm gonna give next season 1 to 2 episodes, see how I feel about it, and then let y'all know.
I like it.
You three are so. I still can't get over the Meryl Streep comment. That's the one that I'm going to leave with. Thank you guys very much for tuning in all season with us here on the I Am Cait After Show on AfterBuzz TV. Don't forget, hit subscribe on YouTube and iTunes if you haven't already. You guys can tweet us. Shar, let's start with you. Go down the table. Twitter, Instagram, where can folks find you?
At Shar Says So on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And you can also visit sharsaysso.com for more details. That's all S's, not Shar with the C, because I see some of y'all misspelling my name.
And you can find my website, social media handles at Danica Kennedy. Just my name. Simple.
And I'm at the Tiona Hobson, so make sure you follow me.
Are you the only Tiona Hobson?
Well, yeah, now, because regular Tiona Hobson was taken, so that's why I'm the Tiona Hobson.
I'm at Bobby DeMuro on Twitter. Thank you guys for joining us this season. I guess some of us will see you next year. If not, we'll see you when you see you. Thank you guys for tuning in. Good night.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.